someone walked into our house when I was a child.
Oh, let me tell you about the red flags.
Oh, you saw them?
Well, and now he had me someplace I couldn't escape. So he would take me to these clubs, and
no.
Once you figure out something with the opposite sex, how sometimes you don't see it with the same sex people around you.
Are you coming out of the closet? Because I don't think anyone's prepared for what they're about to hear with this story. So we're going to go into how you guys met, the dysfunction within your relationship that you didn't realize until after, your breaking point, and then the end of that relationship. I don't really even know this full story, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't think you do.
We're talking about your most recent ex. He's kind of the source of a lot of our problems, which is great to set up for how we became estranged. But he is the pinnacle of like problems in our lives.
Well, I don't know that you even know how my relationship came about, even with him. I mean, you were 3 when we got married.
Okay, yeah, so obviously I probably wasn't paying attention very much.
And we talked about this a little bit in the last episode when I said that I found him in the recycler. And the recycler, does it still exist? Is there still a recycler?
I've never heard of it.
Newspaper? It was a little free newspaper that was basically a bunch of classified ads.
Interesting. Okay. We are notorious for just kind of like dropping subtle bombs on each other about like tragic things that have happened, just nonchalantly. And you said one to me the other day that was polarizing about this situation that we're going to get into. See, you don't even remember how big of a bomb it was. Like it is the most, I think this is the breaking point. So let's dive in, because I don't think anyone's prepared for what they're about to hear with this story.
I might not be prepared.
It's your story. You remember it.
Well, basically, I was a single mom. I had you and your sister, and I was struggling, and I was working multiple jobs, just trying to stay afloat. And one of my loves was singing. And I had a band back before you guys were born. And I remember just like how much I loved that. And so I was going to start up a new band. So I put an ad in the recycler, little freebie classified ad newspaper. And
wait, why is that? Why is it called the recycler? Because you recycle the newspaper?
Like, well, because it was for like buying and selling stuff. Your recycling stuff. You know, recycling trash cans didn't even exist back then. Like the recycling that you know now was not the. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing.
Weird.
It just wasn't a thing.
I want to deep dive into where the name recycling came from. That okay? Continue. Sorry, continue. Sidetrack.
So anyway, he answered my ad to form a band, and we met and kind of hit it off. And it's really funny looking back, and I know we're going to talk about this going forward. I immediately glommed onto this idea of, oh, I want this, and here is somebody who can help do the work to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And was going to take care of me and was going to make all these things come true.
I want to, as we go through this story, I want to point out the red flags that I see now that you couldn't see back then, because obviously there's one. Hello.
Oh, no, see, that's the horrible thing. Let me tell you about the red flags.
Oh, you saw them? Wait, you knew? Hold on. Did you?
He had a girlfriend. But see, we were just forming a band, so
right. Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite see that as a red flag yet. The red flag came in that she became extremely jealous. And
when did you guys start like connecting and flirting? Like when he still had a girlfriend, or
pretty much right away? Not like right away. But it escalated pretty quickly. And then he was telling me how he wanted to break away from her, but he was in a band with her, so he didn't want to rock that boat. And
how many bands with? Okay, continue. Sorry.
Well, I think that was kind of like what he was looking for. He was looking to go from one situation right into another, because, and that will make sense a little bit later on in this story. So I remember I was at Knott's Berry Farm. It was my birthday. And it was you and your sister and me. we went to Knott's Berry Farm, and I got a call. Was it on my pager, or was it a call?
I was just going to say a pager call.
It was a pager because we didn't have cell phones back then. And so I stopped and went to a payphone and called. And it was him telling me that he had broken up and moved out and, all of that. So then we started dating like very soon after that, while still forming a band.
This is that hard lesson of if they do it with you, they'll do it to you, which you didn't find out for like 20 years. But
it gets worse because it's actually like it's kind of embarrassing telling this story because it seems so obvious that I was so stupid at the time.
Hindsight is always...
Because we did start dating, and it was like our very first date. He was very pushy. And I remember...
Did you wait 3 dates before you slept together, or...
No.
I don't think I've ever waited either, so I can't judge you there.
It was one of those, like him saying like, well, it's okay, you can say no, kind of things. Okay.
But like you still felt that pressure?
Yes.
Here's really fast. As we go into this, I kind of want to frame this in the context of the relationship dynamics. I don't think I've ever gone over this concept with you, but like, have you ever heard of anxious attachment style and avoidant attachment style?
Well, I have now.
Well, I might have told you, but the anxious attachment style that's drawn to that avoidant dynamic is the most toxic cycle, and we have perpetuated this throughout every single one of our relationships. And you're going to see the pictures here, for those of you listening, of what that dynamic looked like in real life. So that kind of anxiety of like, oh, if I don't do what he likes or what he wants or what he expects, he won't want me. He won't like me. Right. He'll stop talking.
And for me, it wasn't just a relationship. It was the band.
The security, the ideal that this person was successful and could take you into the places that you wanted to go.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then what happened was I got like some weird vibes from him. And of course, like what you were saying, whenever that would happen, I would go out of my way to be what I thought he wanted me to be. And
conforming to, your boyfriend. And I've been there.
And what I found out was it was that he was still seeing the ex-girlfriend.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh,
and instead of just letting that, saying no and walking away, I pursued. I was going to win. I was going to be the one he chose.
The competition of, I hate that. Oh, I hate that so much more.
It was really awful. Looking back on it, it was like,
that's bad.
I had no self-worth.
Yeah. You when you're so broken down as a person that you don't believe you could be loved by anyone, you will do anything just to validate that idea of I'm lovable. And that's what leads to these situations. And I have been there before, so I know it, but looking back on it, you're just like,
and he would also be telling me how awful she was, how abusive she was, how controlling she was. Like, she was this horrible. And so I felt bad for him. Like, oh, he's this nice guy. He's like, he doesn't want to hurt her. I was at a company party at the beach. I remember this very clearly. And that is when I don't even know how I looked. I don't remember how he told me, but I remember having a phone call where he told me he couldn't be with me anymore, that he was with her, and he was like, sorry.
Interesting.
And so I spent my whole company party in tears and, not wanting to be there, but had to be there. And I remember going to his house that I wrote this letter. I was crying while I wrote it, and so my tears were in the paper. And I went and I picked up my stuff from his apartment and I left the letter, and then he calls me the next day, and of course he's sorry, and it was just really dysfunctional. And from the time we met to the time we got married was 6 months.
Oh.
It was very quick.
I
It was
didn't know
very
that.
typical narcissistic whirlwind.
Huh.
Yeah. Because the girlfriend finally got fed up and
Did you ever talk to her?
no,
Did you ever get in a fight?
no,
Okay.
no,
Hmm.
no.
Probably could have saved you some heartache if you
Um,
did, but you probably wouldn't have listened in that time.
he
How
would
old were
go by
you?
her house with me in the car. Oh yeah,
Stalking her?
it was it's very bad. So let's just like fast forward past that a little bit. So we get married and we have a band and going doing the band gigs, everything. I was in charge of getting the gigs, managing the band. Basically, his job was to manage the musicians. And then he started getting tired of that. He's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much work. And then that started some tension because, like, but I love, doing this and all this. So, like, we
That's
never
another repeating
were,
theme that I witnessed as a third party in this endeavor is everything always seemed to kind of fall off of his plate and onto yours.
Yeah. But you know what? He made good money. And so he would love bomb me with the life I wanted. I could have my animals. And that's when we started. We started early on. Actually, instead of an engagement ring, he got me a horse. Because we were very much into horses. And while I was into horses, now I know that was his manipulation to stay in my life, because I think he was just as afraid of losing me as I was of losing him.
Oh,
and
yeah. Well, that's the dynamic is so the anxious avoidant attachment, both people have one foot out of the relationship at a given time. But the avoidant gets overwhelmed and overstimulated and is like, whoa, I need my space and pulls back. But the anxious gets overwhelmed and overstimulated and is like, oh, I recognize that person is pulling back. I'm going to go in harder. And that creates this push and pull and just this like toxic cycle. So they're both deeply dysfunctional and anxious in their own way of the relationship failing and being alone. It's just their reaction to it is different.
So he got me a horse. The horse's name was Rocky because he was my rock, and
cheesy.
Yeah. And then, of course, he wanted a horse. So he got a horse. And we moved to Norco, California. And for those that don't know, Norco, California is like, there's more horses per capita than people. Like, it is a horse town.
Isn't there also more drugs per capita than there are people?
No. Well, not when we lived there. It was a very wholesome town.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Pahrump.
Oh.
No, Norco was amazing. It was amazing. I loved it. But he wanted a trail ride. And so I would start to go out on trail rides with him. And he'd want to go fast. And he'd want to like take risks. And I'm not a risk taker. And I would get scared. And then he'd abandon me. And then I'm out on the trail by myself, making my way back. Like a lot of that kind of stuff. Like his
was Norco the chainsaw incident? Was it a chainsaw? Or was it there was some sort with Buster?
Oh, no, but that's coming up.
Okay.
So Buster, best dog ever in existence. So we didn't just end up with one horse or two horses. We all of a sudden now I made a friend who introduced us to the livestock auctions. And so we started going to the livestock auctions. And buying and selling has always been my thing. Always been my thing. And that's why it really goes more than 25 years because I was buying and selling way before eBay. So, and it got to be where we were going to the horse auctions. And so we were picking out horses that just needed some training or, little stuff that we could fix up and turn around and sell them. So we had like horses. We had horses.
How quickly it devolves from 1 to 12.
Yeah, pretty quick. Well, we didn't have 12 like that. We had about 6 at a time. And then we moved out to this ridiculously awful place in Lake Elsinore, which you probably were still too young to remember that, but it was.
Wait, was that the place with the tire swing?
I don't know. No. I see the things that we remember from things. I don't remember a tire swing. But I remember we lived way back in isolation, in this pieced together mobile homes and trailers, and it was
sketchy,
not good.
Interesting that he would want to live someplace in isolation.
That's where I'm getting to.
Hmm.
Then we're like, we were renting, and then we're like, we need to buy a place. So we bought a house, and it was a working horse ranch, which was like super exciting because we were like, it was going to be an income property as well as like whatever. Well, all hell broke loose when we found out that the seller had moved that house from another location onto that location
Oh.
without permits. It's what's called a move on. And I found that out because the seller's girlfriend was very personable and we made friends. And she was a horse person and she was a hairdresser. So she's like, come get your hair done.
Oh,
So-
wait. Oh my gosh, what was her? Yeah, I know. Oh, this is okay. Wait, now I'm remembering. This is the house where I had a baby little chicken that I raised from an egg. And at my birthday party, I was so excited to show everybody my baby little chicken that I had raised. And I was like, I can't find my chicken. Where's my chicken? And goes, oh, it's on the grill. What did you think we were feeding everybody for your party?
We did grill chickens that we had raised, but they were all wild.
All I know is my chicken was nowhere to be found. And that's what he had said.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, that was my little baby chicken.
Okay. Okay,
Anyway.
I don't remember that part. But yeah,
I
but that
also
is the house.
think this is the same house where the rabbits got out, but
Yes.
something got in and killed the rabbits. So I think
No.
the same thing. No.
No.
Rabbits got out?
Rabbits never got out. I don't know if we should put this in here.
Okay.
I don't really want to put this in here.
Okay. What happened to my rabbit?
Yeah, so that house. I mean, there's a lot that happened like during that time, and but basically we had to move because the house was splitting in two, and we got into a lawsuit with the realtors who I found out from sitting in the hairdresser chair. That's where I found out. She started saying something about the house being a move on, and I was like,
Wait a second.
"Excuse me?" She goes, "What? You didn't know? Your realtors knew." I'm like,
So you had already bought the house?
"Oh yeah, we'd already been living in it." And
Because we were there for
problems.
quite some time, right?
No,
At least 2 years.
maybe 2 years at the most.
Okay.
Because it all happened fairly quick because we started figuring it out when we pulled up the carpet in the family room and there was a split from corner to corner that was 2 inches raised on one side.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so that we started the ball rolling on the lawsuit and had, what do you call they come and they assess like
Assessors?
geo something like
Oh.
they take core samples of the ground to see if it was compacted enough and
Oh.
all of that type stuff done to find out
Fascinating.
that the land was sinking. It had not been prepared properly, so that eventually that side of the house was
Sinking.
going to be gone.
Yikes. Not great.
So anyway, we lost the house in foreclosure because lawsuits take a long time, and we had to move out. They said it wasn't safe. So we moved into another rental in Winchester
That
and
was a
tried
rental?
to hold on to the
Oh,
house.
okay.
But we couldn't make both payments and maintain everything. So that's when we moved to Winchester. And that's where things started to really get ugly. And I think really got ugly for you.
Yeah. Well, not
Um,
only because that is the house that I was afraid to go to the bathroom in, but that's also the house that the neighbors behind us,
Right.
which is another story. We'll
Yeah.
pinpoint that for next time. Remind us to talk about it.
But basically, I got a call from, I can't remember if it was the police who called me or if it was him. No, it was him. He called me from jail. He had been arrested. And he wouldn't tell me he wouldn't say it.
Why?
He wouldn't say it. So I was left there with like, what the heck is going on? I'm freaking out because he is the breadwinner of the family. And I had no idea. Didn't know until I believe it was like 2 days later. I finally learned that he had been caught in a sting operation because he
Like Chris
had,
Hansen sting?
like there was enough information about something that he was doing that they set up to catch him in the act.
You don't know what Chris Hansen is, do you?
No.
To Catch a Predator?
Oh, no, I don't watch that.
Oh.
Okay. Kind of like that, though. But he was exposing himself to a group of ladies at an office building on a daily basis.
His office building or just a random office building?
Random.
See, okay, I remember thinking that he worked at Blizzard because he played so much Diablo that I was like, oh, he must work there. That's all I ever saw him do. And so in my brain as a child, I was like, oh yeah, he's a computer person. He works at Blizzard.
Well, wait, let me finish because that's actually the next part.
Oh, sorry. Am I teasing your story?
So it was a really horrible time because of finding out who this person was. But then it was also, in my mind, it was like a new beginning. Because through this, there was forced counseling and there was, accountability, and a lot of stuff came out about, his childhood. And
how many years had you been together at this point? Because I feel like I was in 4th or 5th grade in this house. This is a lot of math that's about to happen.
Yeah, I want to say 4 years.
Okay. So a substantial marriage.
4 or 5 years. Now through this, we had been trying to have a baby.
I remember that because I remember telling someone at church that you either had a miscarriage or an abortion, and I couldn't remember which one. And I just remember their face was like, because I was like, it's probably an abortion.
I had multiple miscarriages, but the worst one was a 12-week miscarriage where I did have to go have a D&C.
Oh gosh.
And he was in jail at that time.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a neighbor
traumatizing
who had to take me to go get that done. Yeah, good times.
Jeez.
And but yeah, I thought everything was going to be okay because now he was going to get all better. He was, all these problems that were making sense from previous years, and now it was going to be okay,
Right.
And the next thing that happened was he lost his job, obviously, and he could not apply for jobs without revealing that he was a registered offender. And therefore, he didn't want to live in California anymore. And this is over the course of a few years because everything, legal processes. At this point, we're raising thoroughbreds. I'm in love with, we've got the goats, we've got the horses, we've got a cute little property. My next door neighbor is my best friend. And now he wants to move out of state. But before that happened, is when through all of this, your turmoil was happening. And I wasn't aware of it. I was not tuned in.
Which part? The neighbors or the
I believe this
Georgie
was when the neighbor stuff was happening.
Okay. Stepmom and also that. And I
Well,
was getting... This is the house that I told you that I was throwing up every morning when I went to school because I was having such bad anxiety about getting bullied at school.
Yes.
And so I convinced you that I didn't want to go to school anymore, and you took me out and homeschooled me.
Yes. And then it's also the time where you showed interest in wanting to go live at your dad's.
Right.
And everybody was saying, well, let her go try it. She'll be asking to come home in a couple of weeks. And so I did. And then your dad found out about the arrest and the charge. And I was convinced that he was not a danger to kids. Let me just be clear. Had I known he was hurting my kids, I would have found a way to break free. I truly believed he was safe around you guys.
I remember being creeped out by him. I don't know if anything ever happened until Arizona when I started becoming a teenager. That's when I remember things getting...
Well, and that was the problem for because she's 7 years older than you. She was at an age where she was developing.
Well, that's when she met her first husband, right?
Shortly. She ran away. And I was in touch with some of her friends that knew where she was and were letting me know that she was okay. And I was like, I'm not going to force her to come back because she'll just run away again. But I knew she was okay. I mean, she wasn't okay, but she was
Alive.
not on the streets. And
I want to, tread lightly on sharing her story.
yes, I won't share more than that. But it's where my mother and I became estranged because my mother was furious that I would not put her on the side of a milk carton. And I know that sounds like a joke, but that's what you did back then. If you had a runaway or somebody missing, you put them on the milk carton. So my mom and I did not talk for a very long time. So, it's hard to like put this all into like a little episode. I mean, this is years and years of things happening. And with any relationship, there's like good times that keep you there. And then there's these really low points that you can look back on now and go, dang, that was a point I should have just bailed. But then
looking at all of the bad things all at once, you're like, oh, it makes sense that you should have left. Yeah. But, one bad fight or one bad incident in 3 years.
Because there's always a cycle in these relationships. The abuse. Then there's the, she's getting away from me. Love bomb. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And when everything's okay for a while, then it's abuse again.
Well, and it's 7 times the average domestic abuse survivor goes back to their abusers. And that's average, which means there's more and there's less. So, my plant light just came on.
I see that. So basically through this whole process, now there's a custody battle for you because your dad and your stepmother are not going to let go of their grip on you. And so not only have I had multiple miscarriages and gone through all that, but now I've just lost you. And I can remember it clear as if it was yesterday, the phone call from the court mediator or evaluator who got on the phone and let me know that he was recommending custody go to your father. And I don't want to minimize anybody who has ever lost a child, but I can tell you in that moment, I think I know what it feels like.
And I think with all the other things going on with miscarriages and, it's the compounding of my older sister and me and now stepdad gone and miscarriages and all of those things all within the same year is a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it was a lot. But I still through that, I always felt like you and I were super close. I don't know, do you remember sitting in the rocking chair watching CSI?
I do. I do.
We were a little CSI,
Maybe that wasn't the best show to show a child right before she went to bed. Could have been the source of some of my anxiety, but who knows?
But we both liked that, like the figuring out, the who done it, and the crime, and the
that was fun.
And TV back then, I got to tell you, it wasn't as graphic as TV is now. TV now is super graphic.
That show was pretty scary.
No, well, maybe for a child, not bad. But you liked it, so let's watch it with me.
There was only a few episodes that were real bad, but
I felt like letting you go to your dad's because we were so close. It wasn't going to take long for you to want to come back, and I think that was for me when you didn't want to come back, when you didn't just tell the courts that you wanted to come back. I didn't know how to handle that either. And that was 4 years, 5 years through the court process. And then
Well, what's really fast, what's interesting about that shift that I can notice now is while it was hard for you, that might have been the best thing for me because that was the first time I was introduced to structure and a schedule and being able to learn what I needed to in school and be forced to do things that I didn't necessarily want to or wasn't good at because one, it's 6th grade, so you're breaking out into different math classes instead of, everyone in the same learning the same things. Mm-hmm. And so there was a hierarchy of you're in the remedial math class versus the high achievers math class, the people that are really good at math, and that drive of oh wait, why am I not in the smart people class? I want to be smart too, but then having someone who could commit the time to help me learn how to do that was a pivotal point for me Now, that being said, this was like the same year that my stepmom had a child that she no longer needed the pseudo child. So, you know, things went downhill real quick after that. But initially, that 6th grade for me was some of the best times in my childhood for being able to have a structure.
I can understand that because it was kind of like that for me going up to my aunt's house in the summers where there was a structure and there was like, this
Routine.
is how, you know, we get ready for dinner and we set the table and then we clean up afterwards. And yeah, it's time for you to go take your shower. And because I didn't have any of that, you know,
Yeah.
growing up. But yeah,
back on track though. Back to now. Okay,
yeah, so in the middle of all of this custody stuff going on, he wants to
now
move.
we're leaving, right? Yeah, we're leaving.
He wants to move to Arizona. And I didn't want to move. Like I said, I love my house. We're in the middle, like I'm getting to see you on a regular basis through visitation. And I knew moving out of state would completely disrupt all of that. So long story short, moved us to Arizona. I barely got to see you anymore. And couldn't wait for the day you turned 18 because then you were going to choose me again. Like you were going to choose me. I couldn't wait. And then of course, during this time, Noah and Rachel came about. And I was at a point where I wanted to leave him, but now I was pregnant. And I was like, okay, God, I guess you want me to stay.
How many times did you find yourself wanting to leave him across your marriage?
Oh gosh. All the
Can
time.
you count? Is it?
No. Because I knew it was bad. I knew it was all bad. And there's things that I'll just get to where it completely escalated.
The breaking point? Is this like
I couldn't take it anymore. Is he moved us up to Reno, Nevada, where I knew nobody. I was completely isolated. Does this sound familiar? And this is where I was being loaned, shall we say, to other men.
We have to be careful, but yeah, how we phrase this for the YouTube.
Because he wanted to watch. That was his thing. He was exhibitionist and voyeur. And at this point, he's no longer in therapy. Everything is just way sliding back to how it used to be.
It feels like he was building confidence of what he could get away with and getting caught, not
well,
getting
and now
caught.
he had me someplace I couldn't escape. I had nobody and nothing. And so he would take me to these clubs and I don't want to get too like graphic in that, but
sure. Can we touch on what you're thinking and what you're feeling when it's happening? Because I feel like a lot of people will say things like, well, why did you go? Or why didn't you tell them to stop? Or
because I was afraid that he would leave me. I was afraid that if I didn't keep him happy, I was not working. I depended on him and I would have nothing. And no one else is going to want me.
This is a really important piece that I didn't understand when I was living there, is the generational differences of like having the man to support. Because when I was older, I learned what women weren't allowed to open bank accounts without their husband until the 80s, I think. And you weren't allowed to have a credit card in your own name until... So from your generation, the need to be with a man and appease them so that you're not out on your own struggling.
And remember, from my childhood, my whole existence growing up was that this is who men are. This is what you have to do to be loved by a man.
You just have to accept it, grin and bear it, disassociate, and do whatever they want because they're the one leading the household and in charge.
Yeah. And this is where the rumors of me being a swinger come about, because basically from the outside looking in, that's what it looked like. But it was
much more nefarious than that. I want to know, and I think this is a good setup for our next episode where we talk about how our relationship broke, because it's the overlap of this time when I was living there. But yes. I want to stay on topic here of what was going on in this scenario and the end of this relationship, and then we'll kind of lead into our relationship overlay on top of that story, so you have the full context at home. But how many years was this? Months, years? How long was this going on before you got to a point where you're like, I can't do it anymore?
So we had been together
from when you moved to Reno. Okay, you moved to Reno.
Almost 20 years.
Okay. Well, but I'm saying, like, how long did he start Soliciting you.
Oh, almost from the beginning, but it wasn't. It was not a physical thing then. It was picture taking and that sort of thing. It escalated. It really escalated in Reno.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
This just triggered a memory in the Winchester house. Do you remember when I was home alone and someone walked in the door? Do you remember this story?
No.
Because I remember you telling me when I was an adult, we had this conversation and you were like, I didn't think he ever did that at our house.
Oh, right.
Meaning he had a network of friends. And I think this
Yes.
was one of the important things of like understanding the minds of peeping Toms. Is this what, like, they have a network of people?
They have a network
where they tell
people.
their friends when to go look in the window.
Yes.
So that they don't get caught.
Correct.
And someone walked into our house when I was a child. And I remember you, like, the recap of this was like, why would they just leave when I saw them, kind of thing, versus like,
Right.
what was their intention of walking inside the house? If they were a burglar, if they were trying to steal something, if they were trying to kidnap me.
Yeah.
When they got caught, they wouldn't have just turned around and walked away.
So who else was there? Because you would not have been home alone. Was I like out in the barn or?
Maybe. I mean, you were out in the barn pretty late.
You were never left home alone.
All I remember is I was in the house by myself. Some strange person walked in the house. I screamed. They left. So maybe he was alone with me and in the other room. And you were out somewhere?
It's possible. Yeah. Because that became a very known theme later because once we had moved to Vegas, I looked up and saw someone in the window, and I know now. And again, I always want to believe people are telling me the truth. I always want to believe the best in people. And when he told me he had nothing to do with it, I wanted to believe that.
How did you learn about the network? When did he tell you about? What was that conversation like? Where did that come from?
There was several periods of time, like, this was kind of one of these relationships and cycles because he got arrested a second time. So I think it was after he got arrested the second time, once we moved to Vegas, for basically the same behavior. Do you know Vegas has street cameras catch that kind of stuff? He would go through these very, very humble times and like start telling me, stuff.
Showing remorse, wanting to, it's a illness, it's a disease, it's, something I'm trying to overcome. Hold the sympathy card because we want to see the best in people.
Yeah, yeah. And he would cry. Like that always got me. He would cry and I feel bad for him. I still feel bad for people who don't deserve my feeling bad for them. Like that is still a curse that I have to live with.
Well, I think it's a catch-22. We want to villainize and look at these people that do nefarious things and say they're evil, they're a villain, they're XYZ. But that doesn't solve the problem for understanding how to prevent this from happening in the future, right? Yeah. It's easy to say, okay, go to jail, we don't have to deal with you. But having the hard conversations means understanding that these are still humans and we need to understand where the root of why these actions are happening in adulthood come from if we truly want them to stop. And I think that is not a problem that we can solve today, but definitely something to keep in mind as we share these stories and talk about these things, because it's not a black and white, this is a bad person, this is a good person. And I think we see that.
This is also like the point of my life where I got very passionate about helping other women get out of situations, not waiting 22 years. I always wanted to write a book saying, I just wish you'd me, something to that effect, because emotional psychological abuse is just as torturous as physical abuse in a relationship. And it was 22 years of, because he could not take a chance of losing me and knew I was smart and talented and all of these things. He had to convince me that I am dumb, that I am a loser, that I can't make it without him, that I am nothing. And boom, 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 boom. That is just ingrained in my head. To this day, I still go there. Like,
I know you do.
Yeah, all the time. Like, that's like, are you stupid? Like, And then I'm like,
I think
no, no, I'm not.
as you're saying this, I'm recounting the feelings of what I had with my first ex, and it was the same things, and that's why I did decide to leave, and that'll be a part of the story that we share about why we became estranged in the next episode. But
Well,
I saved myself from your situation. I'm pretty sure something
yeah.
close to it.
Well, just to come full circle, I never left him because I wanted a 50-year anniversary. I was going to see this through. I was like, we could fix this, we could make this better. And of course, I had two children by him at this point, and I already knew what family court was like, and I did not want to go through that again. So I did have a 5-year plan at the point he chose to, and he didn't just leave, he had an affair with somebody in the business that we had just opened. And so he always had his, like, I'm going to go jump right into the next situation. And that for me was the point where I said, I can't do this again. I was aware enough at this point, like, I am not going to get into another relationship and have this all over again. And I hope now in future episodes we can talk about now, once you figure out something with the opposite sex, how sometimes you don't see it with the same sex people around you.
Are you coming out of the closet? Is that
no? No, just in how some of
I know
behaviors
I know what you're saying
happen with people who come into your life to be friends.
Yeah,
but they're not.
The anxious avoidant trap is more than just romantic relationships, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of think that they're safe, and the relationship dynamic between friends can be just as nefarious, because you still have that anxiety of nobody wants me, I'm not good enough, I have to do whatever they want because I don't have self-worth, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. It's probably a good place to wrap this episode up.
Yeah, this seems like a tidy little bow on this episode. I hope this wasn't too triggering for anybody in this episode, but these are the hard conversations.
The point of it is not to trigger. It is to, for me, when I hear other people talking about this, it makes me feel a little bit more normal and valid, that you know, like, okay, I wasn't alone, I'm not alone in going through this stuff, and if my story can help somebody else avoid years and years of this stuff.
These are the real things that people are really living with behind closed doors, and because we're ashamed of them, we don't talk about them, and so we continue perpetuating the same dysfunction over and over again because we feel like we can't show it to the world. But if you would have been able to talk about those first red flags with someone and not been ashamed of it and felt the self-worth, maybe we wouldn't have had 20 plus years of an abusive relationship.
Correct.
Who's to say? But I'm glad we're here where we are now. I have 2 siblings out of it that I wouldn't trade for the world, but there's always a silver lining.
That is true.
But next episode, we're going to be having even more hard conversations about our relationship. I think there's some things that we haven't talked about since they happened in the estrangement. So this one's going to be juicy. If this resonated with you and you're my age, send this to your parents as a way to introduce the hard conversation.
And if you're my age and this resonates with you, send this to your kids so you can have those hard conversations.
There's no better time than the present to bring up old family drama. I will see you on the next one.
because we did start dating, and it was like our very first date. He was very pushy,
Mm.
um, you know, and I remember
Did you
like,
wait 3 dates before you slept together, or?
no, no.
Mm.
It's hard to like put this all into like a little episode. I mean, this is years and years of things
Yeah.
happening, and with any relationship, there's like good times that keep you there, and then there's these really low points that you can look back on now and go, dang, that was a point I should have